What's up, people of YouTube? This is Roller here, bringing you guys another video to the channel, and today we're doing another top 10. So we're kind of in a nice, smooth period, I guess you can say, for Marvel movies. So we're going to be doing a top 10 Marvel movies. So the MCU movies, of course, that have played into the overall story that we have come to know and love over the past, I'd say, decade or so. I'm going to give you guys my top 10 list of those movies because I feel like we're in a really nice period when it comes to Marvel movies, with Captain Marvel just recently releasing, and then we have Avengers Endgame coming out soon, and then shortly after that we have Spider-Man Far From Home. So we have a lot of Marvel movies that are about to come out here in the next few months, so I just kind of feel like this is a nice time for this video. But before we get into the video, if you guys could go ahead and subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. Leave a like on the video as well if you're new or you're, you know, a subscriber of mine. I would really appreciate that. It helps the channel grow, helps get content out there, and at the end of the day, that is the overall goal here. So to start this off, like I said, this is my own personal list. It's not going to line up with everybody else's. I put a lot of thought into this, my opinion of watching the movies for the first time, and my overall value that I had when watching that movie. That's what we're going for here. And to start off the list, at number 10, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. This one was a close cut. It almost didn't make it into the list, obviously being at number 10. But the reason it's on my list is because the soundtrack alone for Guardians of the Galaxy was fantastic. And I would say that Guardians of the Galaxy is probably the funniest Marvel movie we've ever had. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was really good as well. I would say it would probably, if I extended the list out to 15, I would say it would probably sit somewhere around 12 or 13. So Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is really good, but the first movie was just, the characters that they introduced, they were so unique from one another. We hadn't seen anything like that before in the MCU, so I think a lot of people were kind of surprised. And then unless you really focused on the comics, you didn't know a whole lot about the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think that added a lot to the movie itself. And then, of course, the soundtrack was great. So from the time that I first watched it, I really didn't think I was going to like it, because I usually don't like weird sci-fi space stuff like this, but it was a Marvel movie and I was like, I got to give it a shot. So I sat there and I watched it, and I was really satisfied. It was really good. Over the years, I'd say it has dropped on my list. If you would have asked me 3 years ago where I would have put this, so back in, 2016, this probably would have been a top 5 movie for me, if we're being completely honest. But like I said, over time it has kind of dropped on the list as other movies have come out, and I've kind of realized how much I enjoyed other Marvel movies. So starting off the list, at number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy. At number 9, I feel like a lot of people don't like this movie, but I have one solid reason as to why I like this movie. Captain America Civil War. So Captain America Civil War was a very good movie in my opinion, because it's the first time we see Spider-Man introduced. I remember the trailer that dropped when they announced that Spider-Man was going to be in it, and that was awesome. We get to see all these heroes fight each other for the first time, right? Like, it's always been kind of like a teenage boy's dream to say, oh, Captain America is definitely better than Iron Man, or, vice versa. Spider-Man is definitely better than the Hulk, or whatever you want to say. And this is the first time that we get to see two groups of heroes fight each other. The thing in this movie that makes it absolutely insane, the best part of the entire movie, in my opinion, is the very end scene when Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Iron Man are fighting in that room, and they're just duking it out, and it gets so dark and heavy. And I want to say that this is probably the first MCU movie that gets super dark, at least to the level that this movie did. I don't think we see that in any of the other Avengers movies or anything like that. So that alone was one of the reasons why I felt like Captain America Civil War needed to be on the list. I could have put it higher on the list, but I also think this was their first time having so many people in a movie, like such a large cast of very important characters, that they didn't necessarily do the best of spacing out the amount of time that each character got on screen. So that's kind of why I feel like it sits back towards the back of my list. But overall, Captain America Civil War was a fantastic movie, and I'm very happy that it's here. Moving on to number 8, I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one, but Black Panther is my number 8 spot on this list. I think that Black Panther was a very good movie. I liked the world that was Black Panther. The technology, the suit, all that stuff was super cool. I don't really have a lot of negatives, but I would say that when I first watched it, I was expecting more. I think I was expecting more out of the fight scenes, and I think that the story of that movie was very, very dry. It was. We knew exactly what was happening the entire time, at least in my opinion, and it lost some points because of that. I would say it's probably the most basic storyline out of any of the Marvel movies that we have seen at this point, but that doesn't change the fact that I really liked the movie. I liked the acting. I think the choice for the actors was great. I liked, like I said, the technology, the suit. I liked Black Panther as a hero. I think that is all awesome, but the storyline being the way that it was is what pushes this towards the back of my list more. Overall, though, I still think it was a great movie. I mean, it was a Marvel movie. It looked good. It was something to watch. If you've never seen it before, give it a shot. It's worth it for sure, but it's just not my end-all be-all favorite Marvel movie of all time. At number 7, I have Captain Marvel. As much hate as this movie has gotten, Captain Marvel really surprised me. Now, I didn't go into the movie thinking that anything that anyone was saying online mattered in context of the movie. I knew that people were just salty with the person who decided to play Captain Marvel, some things she had said in the past, but I think that Captain Marvel was a fantastic movie. I think that the comedy alone in that movie was really, really great, and then it had a wonderful nostalgia factor from the 90s. I think that added to it in a lot of ways, and then once again, this was a movie that just kind of, it takes a different look on the MCU. You see the Kree and the Skrull, which is groups of people that we don't really know much about. We know a little bit about the Kree, but we hadn't learned much about these groups of people and their importance in the overall story of the MCU. And this movie really puts it out there, and I think that that's a great addition to the total, like, the total storyline. So I should, at the time this video goes up, I should already have a review of Captain Marvel, but my whole thing with this movie was the fact that I was expecting it to be a level of importance as, say, Doctor Strange, right? Like, I knew at the end of Infinity War, they paged for someone to come, and I knew that that was Captain Marvel's little icon, so that wasn't, like, I knew that she was going to be important, but I didn't think she was going to be as important as, say, someone like Iron Man or Captain America. And boy, was I wrong. I feel like this character plays such an important role in the story moving forward that we are dumb to ignore her. I don't want to spoil it in this top 10, but if you guys haven't seen it and you're on the fence about it and you're upset about the things she said in the past, just put that to the side. Put it to the side. Go see this movie. I think that you will definitely like it. At number 6, we have Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, if you guys didn't know, I was not a big fan of the very first Captain America. I understood that it was crucial to his story, but I could have fell asleep during the first Captain America movie. I just was not all that enthused about that movie. I'm not like a huge fan of Captain America anyway. He's not in my list of like super important heroes, but Captain America Winter Soldier was really, really cool because I feel like we get to see a more rebellious and resilient side of Captain America, and this was a side of him that I liked. I didn't, like the pure cookie cutter shaped version of him, and he kind of breaks out of that in Captain America Winter Soldier because he's doing what he feels is right rather than just following things by the book. He's trying to help his friend, and I get the importance behind that, and I think that added a lot to the movie itself, and the fight scenes were good in this movie. Bucky Barnes Winter Soldier was badass for sure, and I just it's the start of the shield and everything kind of crumbling and the issues that led up to Captain America Civil War. So Captain America Winter Soldier was a very, very good movie. And I think that it deserves more credit than what it gets. I don't hear anybody talk about Winter Soldier. It's either Captain America or Iron Man, like just the singular movies, but I think that Winter Soldier definitely deserves more love. At number 5, we have Iron Man. So Iron Man, I don't really have to say much. I think this was the first one that really blew people away. Tony Stark is very charismatic. He's funny. He's got the technology. He's got the money. He goes from being a spoiled brat to kind of learning like, hey, this is my responsibility. I have to do this now. There's people that depend on me. And I think that was a really, really, really cool transition to see him go through. And it was the first time that we had seen a superhero movie that wasn't, you know, the typical stuff, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, and it was good. It was really good. So, I mean, Iron Man has to be in the top 5, and some people are probably going to say that it should have been higher on my list, but I have some absolute bangers coming up here in the next, like, 4, so I just couldn't put him, you know, in that list, but he definitely deserved a top 5 spot. It was the start of the next generation of superhero movies, and we cannot take that away from the movie that is Iron Man. So I'm definitely not upset with the placement of Iron Man on my list. At number 4, we have Avengers, the very first Avengers, and I want to say 2012. This was a mind-blowing movie. I mean, I remember the trailers leading up to this. I was like, there's no way. There's no way they're going to pull off this big of a movie with all of these characters, and it be good, right? Like, it hadn't really been done before. And I was wrong. I mean, it came out and it was great, and it was way above average. It wasn't like, it was like, oh, it's another superhero movie. Like, no, this was another one of those movies that kind of defines a generation of movies moving forward. This is what sparked DC, for example, to really push on, they were behind the ball when it comes with this, but it's really pushed DC to start making, like, Wonder Woman and Batman vs. Superman, whether people like that movie or not, or the Man of Steel series, or just, you know, like the Justice League movies. Like that stuff was sparked by Avengers. They saw, like, wow, people like this. Like, this can make money. And Avengers was, I want to say it's more nostalgic than anything for me, but once again, this had a comedy factor. And, like, going back and looking at it now, the threat that was posed by Loki is almost comedic in comparison to what there is to worry about now in the MCU. It was a much lighter worry, even though they made it seem as if it was so horrific and doing so much damage. But, you know, that's just kind of how the MCU works and superhero movies in general. Overall, it was a great movie, fantastic. I don't think anybody can deny that. And I think that the Avengers, just from the place that it put superhero movies in general, deserves a list in the top 5. At number 3, I think this one's going to shock some people. I have Thor Ragnarok. The reason I have Thor Ragnarok at number 3 is because this movie was hilarious in terms of comedic value. I don't think that there's a single movie that's better than this one when it comes to comedy, I'd say. This definitely takes the cake, but on top of that, you get to see Thor go from being basically Superman and indestructible to being almost nothing. And I don't know what it is about movies like that, but I really like stories that follow somebody who was something, then they were nothing, and now they're becoming something again. So this was another movie that went to a pretty dark place with Thor losing a lot of his people, and then the movie ending, and you see the giant ship, which ends up being Thor's ship, and then them getting all sorts of messed up in the Infinity War movie. But it's a dark movie. The fight scenes were cool. Him going from nothing to something was cool. I like the interactions between him and Loki and the Hulk, and Valkyrie was cool. All the characters in the movie were great. Jeff Goldblum was in there. But all the characters in the movie were absolutely great. I don't have any regrets about seeing this movie. I remember when the trailer dropped for this, I saw it and I was like, that's going to be a good movie. And in the past, I didn't hate the Thor movies, but I thought they were kind of stale. I didn't think they were like anything special aside from the fact that they were building the overall story for the MCU once again. But this one went above and beyond the other Thor movies, in my opinion, and I just think it stood out a lot. So I'm happy that this movie came out. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. Definitely deserved the spot. You guys might not agree. If you don't, I'd love to know in the comment section, but Thor Ragnarok is a great superhero movie in my opinion. Next up here at number 2, we have Spider-Man Homecoming, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, this one's just at number 2 because it's Spider-Man. Like, the fight scenes in this movie weren't incredible, but it's a different beginning to Spider-Man than what we've seen in the past. We were used to seeing Spider-Man as, you know, oh, Uncle Ben's dead, great power comes with great responsibility, let's go fight Green Goblin. Like, that's what we were used to seeing, but seeing him starting in high school as a kid, under like Tony Stark's guidance, and wanting to join the Avengers more or less and like contribute to everything, I think it was really, really cool. And I'm really excited to see Spider-Man Far From Home, because from the trailer alone, it looks like that movie is going to be even better than this one in terms of like fight scenes and stuff. But honestly, the fight scenes are probably the most lacking part of this entire movie, which is crazy to say for a superhero movie. But it still ranks it at number 2 because 1, Spider-Man, 2, you get to learn more stuff about the Spider-Man universe. 3, I just love the way that the movie played out. And of course, it had a lot of comedic value because Tom Holland plays Spider-Man, I think, perfectly. Like, yes, Tobey Maguire was a good Spider-Man for his time, but I don't think that anybody can really sit here and say, yeah, Tobey Maguire was the perfect Spider-Man in comparison to the comics. Like, he equaled out to exactly what it was supposed to be. It wasn't that he was bad or anything like that. It's just that Tom Holland, I feel like, fits that spot better than any other actor we've had for Spider-Man. Even Andrew Garfield, like, a lot of people don't like Andrew Garfield, but I thought his movies weren't horrible. I enjoyed them. I mean, I was a little upset when they ended the Amazing Spider-Man series because I thought it was going places. I was impressed with it, but I can see why people wouldn't be happy with it because it didn't really follow suit with the comics very much. So this one I think is definitely right up that alley in terms of the character itself, and the actor who's playing him seems like he just fits really well into that role. So definitely happy with Spider-Man Homecoming. That's why it's at my number 2 spot. Let's move on to number 1. At the number 1 spot, we have Avengers Infinity War. And if we're being completely honest, the only reason that Avengers Infinity War is in the number 1 spot is because of how dark it was. It was actually scary to watch this movie and like to see the defeat that happened at the end of this movie, to know that they actually didn't succeed was something we were not used to. And then the repercussions to that kind of a loss was absolutely insane. It was not something that we were used to in any sort of superhero movie. Like, there will be parts of a movie where the hero will be down and out, and then he always comes back. But that's not how this movie works. Like, they were done at the end of that movie. Like, it was bad news. And I know that we're going to get Endgame and things are going to be changed and we're going to get people back. I don't think we're going to get everyone back, but I think we're going to get most people back, especially the important characters. But yeah, I mean, Infinity War was dark. They did a really good job with all of the characters. I don't feel like there was too many issues with them not getting enough screen time for characters. It seemed like it worked out really well for me. So that's why Avengers Infinity War is at my number 1 spot. Now, I'd like to know what your guys' number 1 picks are for Marvel movies overall. I'd like to know what your guys' top 10 picks are for Marvel movies overall. I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I'm just happy to see that this cinematic universe is playing out well. Excited for the future movies. If you guys enjoyed the video, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, and deuces.